Coming up on this week's Center of It All, we continue our historic building journey as we take a look at one of the first buildings built in Philipsburg and check out a local coffee brand with a lot of family history. Mel shows us a restaurant-style meal without breaking the bank, and our pet of the show may be the last one at the kennel. We'll tell you why. Don't go anywhere, it's all right here on the Center of It All. Good morning, thanks for joining me on the Center of It All. Now we are in studio today because even though I'm ready for fall, the weather seems to have other plans with the hot summer sun. Now the people of Philipsburg say it is a town with many firsts. So we went to visit one house that is about as old as the town itself. If you drive on North 2nd Street, you'll see one building that looks a little different. That's the Simler House, and it's been standing in that spot for over 100 years. The house was built by one of Philipsburg's 12 founders, John Henry Simler, somewhere between 1805 and 1807. It wasn't the first building built in the town, but today it is now the oldest house still intact. And for Mark Seinfeld, a relative to John Henry Simler, having this house still be a part of the community is important.
The whole thing, it takes one back in history, back in time. It takes us, as I say, back to the beginning of Philipsburg. Just a lovely thing to show the beginnings of America, too.
And when you walk into the house, it really is like you are taking a walk back in time. The house is almost identical to what it looked like back when it was first built.
So much was here, including the original rafters, including sections of the original roof.
The house was restored in 1998 with about 80% of the house still intact. There have been a few replacements done to the floor and the doors, but this side of the house is all original. And having these historic buildings still stand brings a sense of pride to the community.
Philipsburg is a unique community, and we have a lot of firsts. There is a lot of history here and a lot of reason for pride, and we don't want that history to be forgotten.
But this house holds a special place for Seinfeld. It's a part of his family history.
My grandfather always taught me a love of family, and he's passed away, but that tradition is very deep, and family is very important to me, and this house is very important to me, as I think it is for the town of Philipsburg as a whole.
Today, the house is a museum, and you can take a tour and learn about the Simler family and the history of Philipsburg.
We come out of our past. The past constitutes who we are. We shouldn't forget our past. In America, often our old buildings are torn down.
But this building, as well as a few others, still stand tall in the Philipsburg community, reminding people of the history of their town and their founding members.
If we lose our history, we lose our heritage. That we pass on our heritage for our children to see our beginnings as a people.
With its many floors and staircases, the house was considered extravagant for its time period. When we come back, we take a look at one drink that most people have to start their day with. Welcome back to the Center of It All. Now, to wake up in the morning, coffee is a must for some people. We went to visit one local company that serves your coffee with a personal touch. It started in 1978 with 20 to 30 different products. Today, Rich Coast Coffee now serves over 1,400 different products, ranging from coffee blends to flavored creamers and syrups. And although the products have grown, the personal touch has remained the same.
Our biggest thing is still be a service and still be reliable. Main thing being that we're family owned and operated, so there's a personal touch to everything that we do. That
personal touch can be seen when you go to the Lewistown location.
This beautiful, majestic 35-acre landscape against a mountain. And you wouldn't even know there was a coffee company here if you didn't know.
It's the kind of place that when you open the door, you're greeted by the family dog. And they have expanded to selling more than just coffee.
Little by little, it was more of a diversification, just moving out into new products, bringing in the slushies, bringing in juices, bringing in more teas, and just being a more well-rounded beverage company.
And the drive behind this company, family. That can be seen in the family picture collage hanging in the main office. And as the company moved from one generation,
there's something so special and wonderful about knowing that you are going to be able to leave a business like this behind. For Jason's father, Lance, to be able to say to Jason, here's a business I built, and now it's going to be in your hands. And for Jason to be able to say that to his sons is, I think, what really sets us apart from other corporations.
To the next generation,
knows that we sell coffee. Everybody knows that the Euphemas, have Rich Coast, and that we're dabbling in this and we're dabbling in that. We're a very public family, and I have two sons, and I'm so excited because one day I know that this will be there for them. And my son Jet, of course my sons Jet and Dane both argue about who's going to run it and who's going to be the boss and who's going to do this and that.
Sell 135 different coffees, and within that, sell things like Organic and Rainforest Alliance. They import their coffee from all over the world, but make and mix all the blends themselves. You can find Rich Coast in restaurants, convenience stores, but just because their product is expanding to include things like iced teas and smoothies, that doesn't mean their service is changing.
Trust is always going to be the number one thing. If customers can trust us and there's a respect there, that really differentiates us between our relationship with a customer, and those customers that trust us will certainly be customers for life if we can establish that kind of relationship with them.
And those established relationships has allowed the family to gradually expand to about 6 different locations throughout the area. Not the coffee shops or cafes you may be used to, but an area that you can buy their coffee to make at home, and for some people, Rich Coast is the only coffee they drink.
That you go to a breakfast restaurant and people have told me that they don't go there anymore because they don't serve Rich Coast. So it's good to hear that, but it's also good to hear people who come through the area that I get emails from, or I'll get a Facebook message or anything like that that said, I just have to have your coffee. I stopped at this restaurant and I had it, and I just have to have it for home.
The family plans on expanding their business further with the opening of a new brewery. When we come back, Mel shows us a recipe that will have you cooking like a professional chef. Welcome back. This week, Mel shows us how to get a restaurant quality meal without spending a lot of time or money.
If you've eaten in an upscale restaurant recently, you've noticed that the price of your favorite fine dining meal has skyrocketed. Interestingly enough, the greater percentage of these high-priced menu items with fancy French names are pretty easy to make at home. Join me right here at the stovetop while I show you how to make one of my favorite cooked like a chef meals. Steak Diane with skillet roasted baby carrots and potato medallions. I have 2 filet mignon, about 1.5 pounds total weight, sliced in half and lightly pounded. Yes, the cost of these 2 steaks was $26, but this meat is going to serve 4 people. In a restaurant, one of these 4 pieces would cost you $35 to $40. Additionally, I've got some salt and pepper and butter for seasoning and sauteing the meat. I'll be adding some diced onion, mushrooms, and parsley to the skillet too. And to make our sauce, I've stirred together a mixture of beef stock, cream, steak sauce, and Dijon mustard. A little bit of red wine is the last thing I need to deglaze the pan, and this meal will almost be ready to eat. I've melted 4 tablespoons of butter in my skillet. I'm just swirling it around a little bit. I'm going to season the butter with some salt and some pepper. I like lots of pepper. I'm going to turn my heat up, get this nice and bubbly and hot, and I'm going to add my 4 steaks to the pan. I'm going to saute those on almost high heat for 2.5 minutes per side to get a good medium rare after they've rested. These are just about at the 2.5 minute mark. I'm going to season the tops of these with salt and pepper. And I'm going to carefully flip them over. Never stick a fork in a cooking steak. Never, ever. And now I'm going to let them cook for about 2 to 2.5 minutes on the second side. 2.5 minutes on the second side. These are done. I've turned my heat way down. I'm going to transfer these 4 steaks to a warm plate. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cover them with foil and I'm going to put them in a really low 200-degree oven to keep warm and rest for about 15 minutes while I'm preparing the sauce and the rest of the meal. I've got all these beautiful brown drippings in the bottom of the pan, and that's called fond in French. And I'm going to add about a cup of onion. Shallots would be nice too. And 2 cups of diced, I'm using baby Bella mushrooms. You can use your favorite kind. I'm going to lightly salt these and lightly season them with some pepper too. And I'm going to cook these, stirring them constantly or keeping them moving in the fond for about 4 to 5 minutes. My mushrooms and onions have been sauteing for about 4.5 to 5 minutes. I've got a beautiful brown on these mushrooms, which is going to give this a really nutty flavor. I'm going to deglaze my pan with about 4 tablespoons, 1/4 cup of red wine. And I'm using a nice sweet port to do that. Oh, doesn't that look gorgeous? I'm going to let this cook off for just maybe 20-30 seconds. And I'm going to add that mixture of stock and cream and Dijon mustard and steak sauce. Great flavors in that. And about 4 tablespoons of parsley, about 1/4 cup. And I'm going to reach for my spoon and I'm going to stir this around and I'm going to let this simmer for 3 to 4 minutes till it's reduced by 1/3 to 1/2 and it's a nice thick sauce. My mushroom sauce has simmered for about 5 minutes, is reduced by about 1/2. It's glorious, if I do say so myself. It just smells fabulous. I'm going to turn this off, cover this, and I'm going to set it aside back on the counter. I'm just going to let it sit. It's going to stay really warm while I quickly show you how to pan roast a few vegetables. Everyone loves to eat roasted carrots and potatoes, and my method for doing them quickly in a skillet in about 8 to 10 minutes is too easy to be true. I've heated about 1/8 of an inch of peanut oil in the bottom of this skillet. Feel free to use corn oil. I'm going to add 8 to 10 baby carrots. The carrots are scrubbed but unpeeled. They're just trimmed and cleaned. The kind they use in the fancy French restaurants. And then I'm just going to fill the skillet with 1/2-inch thick sliced russet potatoes. How many that fit depends on how big the russet potatoes are, and these were huge. Okay, that looks great. Give them a real good season with salt and pepper. And we're just going to let these cook for about 5 minutes on one side. Then I'm going to flip them over, and when they're golden brown on both sides, we're going to put this meal on the table because I'm starving. It's been about 4 minutes, and my carrots are getting nice and caramelized on one side, so I'm going to flip them over. And you probably should know that these skinny little baby carrots are always going to cook just a little bit faster than the potatoes. So I'm going to let them cook for a couple more minutes, maybe 2, because they're almost done all the way through. I'm going to transfer them to a plate, and then I'm going to finish cooking my potatoes for the last 3 or 4 minutes on the second sides. Diane was the Roman goddess of the hunt, and this divine meal is perfect for every and any special occasion you can think of, including just making your family feel special. It feeds 4 for the price of 1 restaurant meal, and you get to show off and cook like a chef. For these and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
When we come back, we take a look at one of my favorite apps and introduce you to our pet of the show. Welcome back to the center of it all. Whether you're walking on campus alone or filling up your car in the middle of the night, this app always has your friends right there with you. It's called Companion, and if you want it to, it will never leave your side. This app is great for when you, your son, your daughter, anyone is studying late at night on campus, when you're out jogging at night or in the early hours of the morning, or just when you are walking alone and feel uncomfortable. You can reach out to family and friends and even the local police and have them watch you when you are on the move. So how's it work? After downloading, you are walked through the short setup tutorial, and you must allow the app to access your location and enable motion activity so it can tell when you are moving. You then put in your phone number, or send an access code, and then you create your account, set up a safety pin, and join. From there, you can enter your destination. You also have a wander option if you are just out for a relaxing walk in the evening. And you have people virtually travel with you. You do this by setting up your contacts as companions. And the best part, your contacts don't even have to have the app downloaded. Your companions can see a live map of the progress you made and get updates as you travel from point A to point B. In the settings menu, you have options you can turn on and off, like the safe check that will ask you if you are safe when you have arrived at your destination before alerting your companions. The safety pin. This is what you set up at the beginning when signing up for the app. You'll be asked to confirm the pin saying you are okay should the app detect any danger around you. And finally, suggested tips. Companion will send you a notification suggesting you start a trip when you are on the move if you forget to set one up. Now you can select whether these reminders come for every trip you take, just trips at night, or never. And if that wasn't enough, here is where the app goes the extra mile for safety. Remember when you turned on the motion enabler when setting up the app? Here's why. If you start running, don't make it to your destination, or even don't make it on time, have your headphones yanked out, or your phone falls to the ground, the app checks to make sure you are okay. You have 15 seconds to respond, and if you don't, The app sends out alerts to your contacts, letting them know you are in trouble. And on the home screen, there are 2 buttons. The one says, I feel nervous, and this can be used for when you are in an area that makes you uncomfortable. Simply press that button and your contacts will be told that you want them to check on you. The second button says, call police. This can be used if you find yourself in an immediate, dangerous situation. You have to press the button twice because the app wants to make sure the first press wasn't by accident. When that button is used, the app will immediately call and connect you to your closest dispatcher. This app definitely makes me feel safer while traveling. Now, the only downside is it does drain your battery quite a bit. Now, you may recognize our pet of the show this week. We return with Princess, who is patiently waiting for her new family.
Thanks, Alicia. I'm here with Princess. She's going to be one of the last pups at the kennel for a little while, hopefully. Chloe got adopted recently, and I think Bentley's due to get adopted here soon. So she needs to get adopted so she doesn't have to be all alone. She's a good pup who loves her walks. She likes a good car ride, and she's very cuddly. A real sweetie. We aren't sure of her history with children, so we prefer she doesn't get adopted into a household with young children. But she's pretty good with other dogs. And I think she lived with another dog for a little while, but she was in a kennel outside for most of her life, and I think she'd love to just live inside with her new family.
That brings this week's Center of It All to a close. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.